The handcuffs were already locked around his wrists when the police officer leaned close and told him he had no right to question authority. The black single father stood on the sidewalk in the bright afternoon sun, still holding a bouquet of white daisies he had bought for his 7-year-old daughter. Around him, strangers raised their phones, cars slowed down, and his little girl watched from the flower shop window with tears streaming down her face. Nobody knew that within minutes, every officer inside that station would stand at attention for the man they had just arrested. If you believe people deserve kindness, dignity, and second chances before they are judged, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in treating others with respect, and subscribe to Hardline Stories. Because sometimes, the person everyone thinks is powerless is carrying a story powerful enough to change an entire room. It was a warm Tuesday afternoon in the small city of Belmere, when 41-year-old Malachi Rowan stopped outside a flower shop on his way home from work. He had spent the morning repairing electrical systems at a downtown construction site, his hands rough and dusty beneath his clean brown coat. His daughter, Zariah, had been having a difficult week at school, and Malachi wanted to surprise her with flowers. Her mother had passed away several years earlier, leaving him to become both parent and protector. He had learned how to braid hair from online videos, how to make pancakes shaped like stars, and how to smile even on mornings when his bank account was nearly empty. He was not wealthy, but he had built a life around one promise: his daughter would always know she was loved. Malachi had just stepped onto the pavement with the flowers in his hand when a police cruiser pulled up beside the curb. Officer Brennan Vale stepped out and immediately accused Malachi of interfering with an investigation. A delivery truck nearby had been involved in a minor collision, and according to Brennan, Malachi had been standing too close to the scene. Malachi calmly tried to explain that he had only been waiting for the flower shop to finish wrapping his bouquet. But when he questioned why he was being treated like a suspect, Brennan's patience disappeared. Within seconds, the officer ordered Malachi to turn around. Malachi refused to become disrespectful, but he firmly asked the officer to explain what law he had broken. That was enough for Brennan to label him as someone who was talking back. The word spread through the small crowd like sparks. Before Malachi could fully understand what was happening, his hands were pulled behind his back and the metal cuffs snapped shut. The bouquet fell onto the pavement. White daisies scattered across the sidewalk. Inside the flower shop, Zariah pressed both hands against the glass. She could not understand why her father was being taken away. She ran outside crying, but another officer gently stopped her and told her she could not follow them. Malachi looked at his daughter and tried to keep his face calm, even though fear was tightening his chest. He knew one frightened expression from him could make her believe the world was a dangerous place. So he simply smiled. He mouthed that everything would be okay. Then the cruiser carried him away. At the station, Brennan marched Malachi through the front doors as several officers looked up from their desks. The building was busy with the ordinary sounds of telephones, footsteps, paperwork, and radios. Malachi was placed in a holding area while Brennan began filling out the report. But then something unexpected happened. An older sergeant named Corwin Hale walked past the desk and suddenly stopped. He stared at Malachi for several seconds. Then his face changed. Corwin recognized the man. Not from the neighborhood. Not from the flower shop. From a photograph hanging in the station's conference room. The photograph showed a group of emergency responders standing beside a collapsed apartment building after a gas explosion 2 years earlier. In the center stood Malachi Rowan, covered in dust, carrying an injured firefighter away from the rubble. Corwin hurried into the administrative office and returned with the photograph. Another officer looked at it, then another. Soon, several people gathered around the desk. Malachi wasn't a troublemaker. He was a former Army combat engineer who had spent years serving his country before returning home to raise his daughter. During the apartment disaster, he had been working nearby when the explosion occurred. He had entered the damaged structure repeatedly, helping trapped residents escape before firefighters could reach them. He had suffered a serious shoulder injury that ended his military career, but he never considered himself a hero. He had simply seen people who needed help. Then Corwin noticed something even more important. Pinned beside the photograph was an official commendation. It carried Malachi's name. The station suddenly became silent. Brennan's face went pale as he realized what had happened. The man he had accused of disrespecting authority had once risked his life to save members of that very department. Corwin walked toward Malachi and unlocked the handcuffs himself. He apologized, not because Malachi had demanded it, but because respect should never depend on someone's uniform, skin color, income, or position. Malachi rubbed his wrists and looked toward the station entrance. His thoughts weren't on revenge. They were on Zariah. He asked whether someone could please call his daughter and tell her that her father was coming home. That simple request broke the tension in the room. Within minutes, officers who had barely known his name were standing around him. One after another, they learned the full story of the man they had just treated as a threat. Then Corwin did something nobody expected. He stepped back, straightened his uniform, and saluted Malachi. Another officer followed. Then another. Within seconds, the entire station was standing. Uniformed officers, dispatchers, and senior commanders stood silently as Malachi Rowan looked around the room, overwhelmed by emotion. He had entered that station in handcuffs. He left it with dignity. Outside, the afternoon sun was still shining. Zariah was waiting near the station entrance, clutching one slightly crushed daisy that had been recovered from the sidewalk. Malachi knelt down and hugged her tightly. She asked why the police had taken him. He looked into her eyes and told her that sometimes people make mistakes when they judge someone too quickly, but mistakes can become lessons if people are brave enough to admit them. Behind them, several officers stood quietly watching. Brennan eventually walked over and apologized to Malachi face to face. Malachi accepted the apology, but he also asked for something more important, that the next person standing on that sidewalk would be treated with patience before assumptions were made. That request stayed with everyone. And weeks later, the station created a new community outreach program focused on respectful encounters between officers and residents. Malachi was invited to speak at its first meeting. He arrived with Zariah beside him, carrying a fresh bouquet of daisies. This time, nobody saw him as a suspect. They saw a father, a veteran, a neighbor, and a man who had every reason to be bitter, yet chose to leave room for forgiveness. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs a reminder that dignity belongs to everyone, and subscribe to Heartline Stories so more stories like this can reach people who need them. And before you leave, comment, "Respect has no color," if you believe every person deserves to be heard before they are judged. Because sometimes the greatest strength isn't found in the power to fight back. Sometimes, it's found in the courage to remain kind after the world has given you every reason not to be.